Alright, another cold day in the capital. This is 21st day of June 2013. Good evening and welcome to KTN Prime. I'm James Smart. The highlights.
We are supposed to provide service to the people, not for the people to provide service to us. It's supposed to be the other way around. If we are unable to provide that service, we will be told and shown the door, and others will be given an opportunity.
Watch out, non-performing public servants to face the sack.
Hata mwenye kazi hata mwenye kuajiriana akikuja tuongee.
Drunk and driving, the killer cruise on Kenyan roads. Busted, 2 Nigerian suspected drug traffickers arrested at JKIA.
Tulikuwa watu 8 kwa sababu mmoja ndiye aliachwa wakauawa siku.
And on case file tonight, we focus on the death of 6 prisoners at Nyongo Maximum Prison. Alright, good evening once more and welcome to KTN Prime. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has put on notice all civil servants to execute their mandate of serving Kenyans diligently or risk the sack. The president said that public service is about delivering services to over 40 million Kenyans and complacency will be met by dismissal. Uhuru was speaking during the National Exporters Forum in Nairobi. Civil servants who usually sit through successive regimes untouched will not be sitting pretty anymore. Just like politicians renew their engagement contracts after every 5 years, public servants will have to justify their continued employment. The stand-talking president stated that the government is supposed to facilitate those who produce and create jobs, adding that public servants must change their mentality and begin to serve selflessly. Sections of the public service have been indicated for shoddy service delivery and often engaged in bribery and nepotism.
To begin to understand that, we are supposed to provide service to the people, not for the people to provide service to us. It's supposed to be the other way around. If we are unable to provide that service, we will be told and shown the door, and others will be given an opportunity. So I can assure you, at least on my part, I don't know about Kidero's part, but on my part, before I am shown the door, those who are in government who fail to provide the services that the people want, I will show them the door first. Yeah? I will show them the door first. So we need to be able to understand that public service is about providing service. And that is the direction that we must go in.
Well, that story leads us to a big question, and tonight we ask you, do you think public servants in Kenya are underperforming? Do you think public servants in Kenya are underperforming? Send us your yes or no brief responses to the number 8040, and I'll sample your views during this live newscast and give you that poll result at the end of this bulletin. Right now, the Kenya National Union of Teachers has now warned up to the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers and are also threatening to go on strike should the government fail to meet their demands for allowances and more teachers. And as the KUPPET strike entered day 4 in Nairobi, members of KUPPET held a peaceful demonstration in the city to push the government to address their grievances. A protest that yielded fruits as the president issued a directive this evening to TSC and SRC to engage the teachers. Patrick Amimo has that report.
The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, which on Tuesday this week ordered its members to go on a countrywide strike, today adopted a new strategy of amplifying their demands. The top leadership of KUPPET led members in a peaceful demonstration that started from the Ministry of Labour headquarters through the city streets to the Teacher Service Commission and Parliament buildings, and finally at the office of the Deputy President.
TP students and the BOG teachers that on Monday they should not step into the school compound because we shall be there with them.
The union accused the Teacher Service Commission of not giving their demands serious attention.
Hatukuona watu wakubwa, kwa hivyo tulisoma out of the meeting na hakuna makubaliano tulikuwa nao leo. Kwa hivyo mgomo unaendelea.
Kuppet wants the teachers' commuter leave and responsibility allowances harmonized to match those of civil servants. Other demands include promotion and employment of more teachers. Elsewhere, the KNU Teach Chairman Wilson Sosion accused the government of taking lightly the union's demands and warned the union will soon call a nationwide strike. Faced with a strike threat that might paralyze learning in all public schools, President Uhuru Kenyatta has stepped in to avert the looming crisis. In a statement sent to newsrooms this evening, the President directed the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Science and Technology and the Teachers Service Commission, in consultation with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, to immediately engage KNUT and Kuppet to discuss any outstanding issues. The President says he expects the negotiations to proceed expeditiously in order to stop disruption of learning. He added that the government has made a provision for the recruitment of 10,000 new teachers in the current budget before Parliament. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
All right, to matter security now, and 15 suspected Al-Shabaab sympathizers have been arrested in Wajir County, an assortment of weapons seized. The arrest comes just a day after police officers seized 27 tons of bomb-making chemicals in that town. The suspects are believed to have been planning terror attacks on Kenyan soil. Sam Ogina has that report.
Security apparatus in the border town of Wajir have stepped up security surveillance in the Kenya-Somalia common border. Just a day after administration police in Wajir County seized a truck ferrying 27 tons of explosive-making chemicals, the operation continues and 15 suspects have been arrested, and a large cache of assault rifles, hand and rocket-propelled grenades, and assorted array of improvised explosive devices have been impounded.
Serikali ya Somalia ilipoanguka kumekuwa na mambo mengi sana. Wahalifu wanatoka huko kuiba mali, wengine wanakuja kuua na mambo kama hayo, na sisi tunashirikiana kabisa.
Security officers in Wajir are on the offensive to thwart Al-Shabaab insurgents inside Kenya's borders. Officers say the ammunition are linked to the Al-Shabaab or their sympathizers fleeing Somalia, trying to get a foothold in the country. So far, the security operation in Wajir has netted over 5,000 rounds of ammunition, 50 hand grenades, 100 AK-47 rifles, 50 G3 rifles, 300 timer explosives, 200 improvised explosive devices, 2 anti-tank rockets, 3 anti-aircraft rockets, 15 rocket-propelled grenades, and 400 anti-personnel mines, among other terror-related paraphernalia.
Tumeweza kunasa bunduki mingi sana kuanzia mwaka uliopita, bunduki ambazo ni haramu, na tumezipata kutoka kwa wahalifu wengine kutoka kwa mipaka yetu ambayo tunapakana na Somalia, na zingine hata hapa ndani.
Meanwhile, a memorial service for slain officials at the UN base in Somali capital Mogadishu was held on Thursday at the Mogadishu International Airport. At least 15 people were killed when a militant car rigged with explosives was detonated at the United Nations common compound. Samugina, KTN, Nairobi.
All right, and staying with the scaled-up security operations, and police in Nairobi gunned down 8 suspected gangsters last night in the Kasarani area following an operation that saw them trail the suspects to Mwiki area in Kasarani. Now, 3 guns and 2 vehicles believed to have been stolen were recovered. Sharon Mumani has that report.
Following a tip-off from members of the public, the boys in uniform trailed the suspects before cornering them in Mwiki area. A standoff degenerating into a fierce gun battle that saw the 8 criminals gunned down by the police.
Those of them who have been caught and are still committing the same offenses may be not lucky this time around because we still have some of them who we are still trailing.
The suspected criminals are said to have conducted a series of robberies within Kasarani and Mwiki areas. The residents here welcome the police operations to clamp down on crime and insecurity that saw the gangsters shot.
Sasa baada yake nikasikia risasi kama inalia. Kwa saa hiyo nikaona mjamaa mmoja akatoka kwa gari akachimbia hivi. Sasa ikaanza kulia. Kati ilianza kulia nikateki cover.
Police say they have been trailing the gang for a long time. Among the items recovered were 3 guns, driving licenses, wallets and 2 cars. Police have issued stern warning to other suspected gangs that they are out to find them all and bring them to justice. Sharon Momanyi, KTN.
Well, and the Nairobi police continued their crime-busting efforts today, killing a man who had stolen a police vehicle. The man who had taken off in the Land Cruiser was gunned down, even though his accomplice managed to escape. Now, the daring suspects stole the vehicle, which was parked a few meters from a police station. And as Wilkis Tanyabo reports, police have launched a manhunt for the missing suspect.
Passers-by along Nairobi's Outer Ring Road were greeted by a not uncommon sight, a man lying in a pool of blood. The tale behind how this came to be, however, an uncommon one. The man had allegedly attempted to steal a police Land Cruiser. The suspect is reported to have found the Land Cruiser parked outside an establishment just a few meters from the police station in Huruma. And with police conspicuously absent from the scene, the suspect and his friend saw an opportunity they could not resist. The pair is said to have jumped into the vehicle and driven off, but their escape would be thwarted by the ever-present traffic jam along the busy road. And as they waited here, police officers on patrol who had been put on the alert confronted the pair.
Wakati aliambiwa na yule askari alikuwa na uniform, utoke nje, ufungue gari, utoke nje ama nikumalize. Kama amefungiwa gani. Sasa alifungua mlango hata kuongea chochote ama kitetee, alifungua na akakaa chini.
Upon seeing the officers, the gangsters, one of the gangsters started shooting to the officers who responded. The officers fatally injured the driver. The other one ran away towards Kariobangi.
And as the story spread, hundreds gathered at the scene. The mystery of just how the pair had managed to get into the locked police vehicle and get it to start was solved when police officers found 2 master keys in the car.
When he was shot dead, a master key was recovered and a key drop, which is normally used to open the door locks.
Questions, however, abound as to just what use the suspects intended to put the Land Cruiser to. Police now launching a manhunt for the man with the answers, the suspect who is on the run following the incident. Wilkis Anyabwa, KTN Prime.
All right, and away from the hustle and bustle of the city, Gashosho village in Murang'a County is in shock after a female administration police officer was killed in cold blood by her junior male colleague over claims of sexually abusing her daughter. Constable Joseph Kiunga is also said to have differed with his colleague over a 50,000 shillings bribe before the shooting incident at an AP camp in Kigumo. Details of the slain 31-year-old officer remain unknown, as police say her next of kin are yet to be informed of her death. Investigations are underway to ascertain whether or not the 9-year-old daughter had been defiled as alleged by her mother.
In fact, wote wawili walikuwa wanaenda kazini upande wa Kashosho huko patrol, walikuwa nje, they were on duty, then wakakuwa na hiyo skapu hapo nje ya manyumba yao. Mmoja huyo this officer ambaye ni APC, administration police constable, ndio akafyatua risasi akaua mwenzake, a lady officer ambaye ni mkobora yake. Akakuja akaleta bunduki yake ambaye ametumia, ikawekwa hapo, akafungiwa, akasema ameua mwenzake.
All right, now 2 Nigerians were earlier today arrested at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for being in possession of cocaine valued at 18 million shillings. The 2 elderly men were intercepted while on transit and were arraigned at the Kibera Law Courts this afternoon. Catherine Omanthu has those details.
Emmanuel Okonkwo and Remigus Agaba were rushed to court immediately. They were allegedly found in possession of cocaine worth 18 million shillings. The 53 and 56-year-old men were on transit to Lagos, Nigeria from Brazil when they were intercepted by police at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. The men are said to have swallowed the cocaine in pellets and even inserted others in their rectums. So far, they have collectively emitted 47 pellets. The rest are still somewhere in their digestive systems. According to the airport CID boss Joseph Ngisa, the police were working on a hunch that the two were trafficking drugs and decided to hold them until they started emitting the pellets. But when the two appeared at the Kibera Law Court, they denied the charges of drug trafficking, and the police have been given 2 working days to submit the cocaine pellets in court as evidence. Until then, they will be held in remand at the Jomo Kenyatta police station. In the recent past, police have clamped down on traffickers in Kenya, with more than 50 foreigners being deported over the offense. Among them are 11 Nigerians, including Anthony Chinedu, whose deportation has led to the detention of 12 Kenyan security officials in Lagos. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
All right, now for a sneak preview of tonight's case files coming up after this bulletin. 6 capital offenders were killed in the wee hours of the morning during a jailbreak at Kingongo Maximum Security Prison. Now, weeks later, it was discovered the prisoners did not escape but were killed by rogue prison warders. Case files, the Kingongo 6, coming up right after this news bulletin.
Tulikuwa watu 8 kwa sababu mmoja ndiye aliachwa, wakauawa 6.
We needed to make arrangements to transport the bodies elsewhere.
Kwa nini na sio mwizi? Na hakuna mtu alienda kutoa ushahidi aseme ati ni mwizi.
Huwa hakuna, midomo hakuna, masikio, hakuna, macho walikuwa wametolewa.
Ilikuwa ni kama kaburi, ilikuwa ni kama kichaka, ama ni mali walikuwa wamepondeshwa.
38 students from different schools in Meru were yesterday rescued from an accident in Waiting by police after the driver and the conductor of the matatu they were traveling in were arrested for drunk driving. Now, the 2 visibly intoxicated men confessed to having drunk prior to the journey when they were arrested along the Meru-Mikinduri road. Now, here is Eric Njoka with all the drama that accompanied the arrest of the drunk crew. Take a look at this.
Nothing is wrong with the vehicle, but a whole lot was wrong with the crew of this 40-seater matatu headed to Meru carrying 38 students, all heading home for the mid-term break. In handcuffs, the driver and conductor were taken to the Imenti police station. Where it was all about why they had been arrested: drinking and driving. The students in the bus seemed oblivious of the danger that could have befallen them if the 2 could have proceeded with the trip. And it gets even worse. It was not just about the drink driving, there was an even bigger problem. 7 jerrycans full of petrol were part of the luggage in the matatu, a recipe for disaster would the vehicle had been involved in an accident.
This is an example to the general public that you also have a duty. You also have a duty as a passenger, not just to be carried as a sack. Please stop the driver, make noise, make calls to the police, to alert them so that such people are not allowed to drive any vehicle on the road, not just a public service vehicle.
The 2 were arrested when a trailing vehicle noticed the bus veering off the road. They were eventually stopped at a roadblock. Ironically, the bus belongs to an immediate former politician in Tharaka Nithi County, and it has never been inspected. The owner got it rough when the police impounded the vehicle.
It is bad. Why are you allowing that? Juzi tumekuwa na very serious accident here and you are aware. Do you want kila siku Meru or Kenya we keep reporting wananchi wamekufa, they have been maimed?
The fate that met the 2 is apparently common in Meru. Drivers and conductors drink as they wait for their vehicles to be full at the Meru main bus terminal before driving to their destination. Perhaps parents should be wary of what means their children use to get home when schools close. Eric Njoka, KTN.
All right, you have to commend the police in Meru for the swift action and, in fact, for alerting the media also that the entire public can be let know. Now, just days after a Nairobi woman appeared in court for allegedly attempting to murder her husband, another one is on the run in Kerugoya after attacking her husband with a machete and leaving him for dead. The man is in critical condition at the Kerugoya Public Hospital, and police have launched a manhunt for his wife. Linda Ogutu has that story.
David Murithi Kabui only recalls his wife going at him with a machete at their home in Kiaritha village, Kirinyaga County. The couple were engaged in a bitter argument, and he cannot recall what exactly sparked her off. His wife is believed to have run away immediately after the incident.
Kati alikuja kwetu, alikuwa ametoka damu sana kwa kichwa, akaendelea hivyo, tukimtibu tukimpatia dawa za shindano.
If it were not for his relatives who found him bleeding profusely on the floor of his house, David would not be alive today. They rushed him to Kerugoya Hospital where he was operated on immediately.
Baadaye mgonjwa akapelekwa kwa upasuaji na kulingana na vile anaendelea vizuri.
Incidentally, this comes only a day after a woman in Nairobi was charged with attempted murder of her husband. A few years back, another woman from the same area severely battered her husband who came home drunk. The woman hit her husband so hard that he lost 9 teeth. The two have since divorced.
All right, now let's move away from the stories of the day, and now before we actually just move on to business, tonight is a special night here at the Standard Group as our sister radio station relaunches, complete with a new tagline, Tuko Pamoja. And indeed right now Standard Group staff are together at the carnival and we are joining them live now. Anthony Ndiema, if you can hear me, Anthony, Tuko Pamoja.
Tuko pamoja, James Smart, tunakupata bila shaka. Sijui kama unanipata?
Tuko pamoja, Anthony. Tell me, what do we expect? I mean, we're just launching and it's a new product, it's a refreshed product. Tell me, what do we expect? What can we tell our listeners?
Thank you very much, James Smart. What is happening? I'm actually at the carnival right now, and we are relaunching Radio Maisha. We started about 3 years ago, 24th of May, 2010. And 3 years on, you know, the listeners grow with you, and they were demanding for a better product. They were demanding because they were growing together with us. And today, we are actually relaunching our new tagline, which is Tuko Pamoja. We are also relaunching our new music. We were actually recognized more of the rumba music, but today we are doing the rumba, but we are also doing African contemporary music. We are also getting new frequencies and we'll be all over this country. We will be broadcasting to the many people who have been crying and saying, we want Radio Maisha because this is a good product. We've also been able to get a lovely, good and exposed talent. So we have a good product right there for you. And that's basically what we are saying. And one thing we are emphasizing, and this comes out very clearly with our tagline, we are saying Tuko Pamoja. Wherever you are in the challenges you're going through, probably you're there, you have not been able to find a watchdog that can help you push your agenda. Probably it could be in the government, it could be in other sectors. We are saying Tuko Pamoja will be there together with you, will support you, will listen to you, and beyond that will take the extra step, the extra mile to make sure that you get an opportunity to speak to whoever you want to speak. It's also vibrant. I mean, we have a fresh new sound starting now. We are fresher, we are more vibrant, and we are upbeat. And that's what we are saying right here at Carnival. Tuko pamoja, James Smart.
Anthony, kabla ni kuwache uendelee na your launch nikijaribu kwa lugha ya taifa.
Yes.
Ni yapi utaelezea wasikilizaji wetu na watazamaji wetu kwamba radio hii itaweza itaweza kuendelea kutupatia hii kutumbuika ukipenda. I think I've tried.
Asa umejaribu sana James Smart, lakini si kutumbuika, ni kutumbuizwa. Na vitu vitatu tunasema, tunakupatia vipindi bomba. Yani tunamaanisha kwa wale ambao hawaelewi, we're giving you lovely, great programs. Tunakupatia mziki wa kisasa wa Kiafrika. We are giving you upbeat, entertaining, great music, and this music is spanning across Africa. If you want music from Nigeria, ukitaka muziki kutoka Kenya, ukitaka muziki kutoka Bongo, kokote tunakupatia. Na mara ya mwisho, ama jambo la tatu, ni tunakupatia habari za kuaminika. Kwa hivyo vitu vitatu, vipindi bomba, muziki wa Kiafrika wa kisasa, na jambo la tatu ni kwamba habari za kuaminika. Ndio mambo tunawapatia wasikilizaji wetu, na tunasema tena tuko pamoja.
Anthony Ndiema, tuko pamoja. Nashukuru sana. Thank you very much, Anthony. Time for business now, and the state will offer incentives to small and medium export traders in a bid to boost Kenya's export trade. This, together with current efforts to decongest the port of Mombasa, gives the impetus needed to drive export trade. Joy Dorinbira has that report.
The assurance by the President on unclogging the port of Mombasa is a welcome relief to exporters from Kenya and is expected to translate into increased goods exiting Kenya to the global market.
As we are meeting, as we're trying to really relook at the whole management of the port, I have told them that must be operational before the end of this year.
In his budget speech recently, Treasury Secretary Henry Rotich indicated that the government would prioritize railway transport to and from the port as a way of lowering the cost of doing business locally. Currently, exporters in the country continue to face a host of challenges associated with their own.
We can't move things. If you look at the whole area of parking aeroplanes, it's a nightmare.
As of 2012, Kenya's exports stood at 518 billion Kenya shillings, and the imports grew to about 1.4 trillion Kenya shillings, exposing the wide export deficit. As part of promoting local consumptions and export, Cabinet Secretary Phyllis Kandia also says she is drafting proposals to impose tax on luxury goods.
I intend to propose an import levy on luxury and consumer goods.
Recently, the World Bank urged the Kenyan government and private sector to boost export trade as part of growing the country's economy and cut reliance on exports. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN Business Today.
All right, the Consumer Federation of Kenya has withdrawn 2 cases from court challenging the planned digital migration. This paves the way for the country to peruse the migration after several failed attempts and with the global 2015 switch date fast approaching. Now, COFEC has now been directed by the Ministry of ICT to steer a stakeholders forum to resolve the impasse between government and consumers over the digital migration.
Their withdrawal of the case and the inclusion of the consumer lobby body onto the steering committee once again sets in motion the contentious digital migration process.
This stakeholders forum will work with the CCK and other members of the digital migration committee to try and hammer out all the issues that we need to address to ensure that we, 1, recover the lost time, and 2, we develop a migration timetable or framework that's acceptable across the board.
The reason we were very keen with this case is that we didn't have dialogue. But the fact that we now have dialogue with Dr. Matiang'i and the regulator, I think there's no reason for us to continue with the case.
COFEC will chair a 9-member stakeholders forum which brings together the regulator, consumers and digital broadcasters. Pricing of the set-top boxes is also going to be a thorny issue, with COFEC calling for them to be less than 1,000 shillings so as not to burden consumers.
We will use the wisdom of COFEC also to try and deal with the issues surrounding consumers in our digital migration process, so that as much as possible the consumer gains from the process that we are undertaking.
The Regional Radio Communications Conference held in Geneva in 2006 set a 2015 deadline for migration to digital TV, but the East African community members set the December 2012 deadline. So far, only Tanzania has adhered to the deadline. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
All right, credit rating agencies are raising the red flag, saying that Kenya's weak public sector balance sheet, characterized by rising deficit and debt levels, is constraining its current B+ credit rating. This is bad news, given that the country plans to launch a Euro bond this year. Adelaide Changole has more.
Debt will account for 49.5% of the country's total gross domestic product this financial year. And even though the National Treasury says they are keeping an eye on the debt levels, analysts are raising an alarm.
The
If you look at countries like when Mexico was about to default, debt to GDP was about where we are right now. If you look at when Argentina was defaulting in 92 thereabouts, debt to GDP then is close to our debt to GDP now.
Credit rating companies released an advisory saying that while the country's economic growth prospects are improving, its limited economic diversification, narrow export base, and low per capita income continue to constrain its creditworthiness.
Credit rating companies in Europe and US are raising a red flag here. You know, be very careful. Your debt to GDP is not looking good.
Standard & Poor's, Fitch, and Moody's Investors Services all currently give the country's debt a B+ rating, which is 4 levels below the investment grade. This verdict could therefore threaten the country's bid to launch a $1 billion sovereign bond this year, as it could make debt more expensive.
If the rating is lowered, it will be more expensive to raise debt.
If the country is unable to borrow internationally, it will be forced to borrow locally, something that will increase interest rates, deny local firms access to credit, and raise inflation levels. On the upside, Treasury's medium-term strategy is to lower the level of public debt to 45% of the GDP. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business Today.
Athletics championships are expected to come to an end on Saturday, with the finals in most of the races slated for tomorrow. The Kenya Defence Forces sprint team outclassed perennial rivals Kenya Prisons to easily win the 4x400 relay, beating them in a thrilling final at the Kasarani Stadium. Victor Ogale has that report.
The highlight race of the day was the men's 400 by 1 meters relay, as both the Kenya Defence Forces and their perennial rivals Kenya Prisons paraded strong squads. But it was the soldiers who carried the day in a time of 39.7 seconds ahead of Kenya Prisons, while Kenya Police came in third.
Tumekuwa na coaches kadhaa ambao wamekuwa kitueleza huyu anzia hapa, huyu anzia, so ilikuwa ni muda wa mwezi mmoja walikuwa wakijaribu kila mchezaji kwa box fulani aone mahali ana fit. Tumeweza kuona timu zetu karibu zote zimeimprove katika mambo ya kupeana zile battons, and it's good because tumeona competition imekuwa katika hali ya juu.
With Athletics Kenya having one athletes not to take part in 10,000 meters, the women's race was left for those who had not attained the qualifying times. Marathoner Lucy Kabu won the race ahead of her training partner Sharon Cherop in a time of 32 minutes 44 seconds. Kabu was using the race to gauge her body, as she is already in the marathon team for the World Championships, while Cherop is targeting Berlin Marathon.
When you have tendon, you can't be able to learn track with the spike. That's why I decided to go for marathon.
10,000 naona iko na competition Kenya this time kwa ladies. Sina hope yote kwa medal, sababu hatuna Vivian Cheruiyot, Sare Kibiego hayuko, na Rinet Masai sioni kama ako 100%. Sasa nimeonelea tuende ajaribu kwa marathon.
Asbel Kiprop will on Saturday meet Jackson Kivuva and Alfred Kiwayego in the 800 meters finals. With most of the star athletes having qualified in most of their races, it is expected to be survival for the fittest on Saturday here at the Moi Sports Center Kasarani as they battle out in the finals. Victor Ogale, KTN, Nairobi.
All right, now COSAFA's Cup guests, Kenya national soccer team Harambee Stars, unveiled their squad for the Southern African tournament to be played in Zambia this year. National head coach Adel Amrochi unveiled a 22-man squad blending local best players with foreign-based players. Duncan Ocheng, Wilson Oburu, and Jerem Onyango will fight for the #1 jersey. Amrochi has named Ulinzi Stars, Mulingendeto, David Owino, David Ocheng, South African-based Brian Mandela, who plies his trade with Santos, and Azams FC, Joaquins Atudo, will be defending the Kenyan goal. Midfielders named in the squad are Mohamed Musa, John Mwangi, Edwin Ofula, Peter Opio, Francis Kahata, Gor Mahia's duo of Edwin Lavatsa and Teddy Akumu, with their Tusker Collins Okoth making the cut. Johanna Omolo, David Geteri, Jamal Mohamed, Ali Bai, Abud Omar, and David Seda will lead the Stars' onslaught in the attack.